So I haven't done a tabletop review, but being that it's winter and it's harder to get footage, I haven't gotten a lot of good footage of this particular product that I want to talk about and kind of make a comparison. I figure since I want to compare it to other things, because that's what I haven't seen a lot of, it'd be better in a tabletop form as opposed to going out and showing you what it can do, because I think other people have shown that. So the product I'm talking about is the Schrade SCHF42D. So it's one of the newer models they have, and they originally made a recurved version, and they had a lot of people tell them they wanted something similar, but something that had a straight edge like this. So they made that, and I've been eyeing it for a while because it's the right size. It's about a 5-inch blade. I don't know the exact length of it. And a relatively thick spine. And just the general simplicity of it. The handle's simple. You know, no giant choil. I can't stand choils. Some people love them. I think that if your knife is designed properly, your finger, when you're naturally using it, should sit close to that blade, which it does with this. And all a choil does is make your standard grip further away from the edge of your blade and forces you to put your finger up against something that doesn't have the comfort of a handle scale, because you're going to be putting your finger right along a sharp metal edge. So real simple design, and that was what really drew me to it. And I actually saw it for 32 bucks, which, man, that is a steal for a piece of 1095 carbon steel knife with what appears to be a decent heat treat. So let me tell you what I did to it before we go too much further. I did two things. So the first thing I did is I put a very small, let's see if it'll focus here. Maybe not. Well, you can see it. Very small sharpening choil right there. And the reason I did that is twofold. One, when I got this, and this is one of the important things, $32 knife, the grind was horrible on it. As it came back to the base of the blade here, it actually took a real sharp turn to the left and was just really terribly ground, and it had a little bit of a recurve, which is so common with these cheap knives and drives me nuts, is right at the base is a real minor recurve. So to make it easier to reprofile this, I put that little sharpening choil in, and frankly, it makes sharpening easier, and you don't lose almost any functionality, I would argue. So you can make that, I mean, that tip right there is just as sharp as the rest of the knife, as opposed to having it come all the way into the base here and then having this awkward angle you have to hold your sharpening stone at, and also have that little edge there off to not get fully sharpened. So I ground in that little choil, and then I had to totally reprofile the blade. So it was a lot, I don't know, I guess I'd call it steeper. Maybe it should actually technically be called shallower. I made the angle, it was probably at about 25 degrees, and I brought it down to, I don't know, maybe 20 or 18 degrees on each side, and then put a micro bevel on it. The reason being is if you don't do that with these knives, they cut horribly. They can be razor sharp and shave hair, but when you try to use it in a piece of wood, it doesn't bite because it's too steep of an angle. So those are the two things that I did to it. So relatively untouched, and obviously put a lanyard on it. I originally planned on immediately replacing the scales with there's custom micarta aftermarket scales and the sheath, because I figured I would hate both of these things, and for a $32 knife, not a big deal. Well, I was wrong on both accounts. I actually kind of like the sheath. I like Kydex mostly, and I assumed I was going to go right to a Kydex, but I don't know. It fits the knife well. It's satisfying feeling. I don't cut this edge. I'm always afraid I'm going to cut this edge, but as long as I'm pulling it out correctly, I haven't even nicked that edge yet. It retains the knife well enough without the strap, where when I'm just around camp, I don't have to put that little strap on. And then when I, move more, I just pop that strap on, gives me a little extra security, but it's hanging, down on my belt, so it doesn't really, gravity is working with me, not against me. It's one of those comfortable handles that I have ever experienced. It's simple, it's relatively thick, and I think in a positive way, and got a little bit of a finger kind of groove there, but just real simple. It also feels comfortable in this reverse grip. I don't know what you call this. I think the reverse grip is that stupid mall ninja grip people do. But if you're doing like a chest lever, it's comfortable like this. And the scales, which I said I thought I was going to replace right away, because everybody's like, oh my god, they're plastic, they're horrible. They're not amazing, but they're not this like slick material everybody makes them seem to be. They're relatively grippy. I've been using this out in the snow, as I mentioned, so they're constantly somewhat moist. And I don't know, I don't really mind them. Would my micarta be better? Probably. I like how tacky my micarta gets, but I can't really justify buying micarta handles for it yet. Maybe if I get annoyed in some situation I will, but for now, I'm okay with these plastic handles. So I'm going to keep them for now. Okay, so another most important thing that I wanted to do was compare it to other knives, because that was the thing that I wanted to see, was just like, I don't know, a size comparison. And I'll talk a little bit why I like this knife over the other one. So the first one we'll compare it to is a real standard, maybe an unfair comparison, but it's a Mora. This is just a little aftermarket sheath. A Mora Robust or Heavy Duty, I don't remember, Companion, whichever one. They're identical. So in wise of blade size, obviously there really isn't a comparison. Line them up about. So, you know, there's a little more length. I think this is supposed to be about a little over 4 inches. This is that 5-inch mark, and that's one of the big appeals to me. That extra inch might not seem like a lot, but when you're batoning wood, which yes, that's what I use this for, you can see some of the damage from it. I think that extra inch allows me to split wood right at the size that my saw makes sense to harvest. So I feel like I'm limited when I use this, and I feel like everything that I would want to harvest, I can split with this. So that's kind of the big difference in why I like this one. Obviously it's got a thicker spine, maybe worth showing, maybe not. So I don't know the exact measurements on that. You know, I think this would probably be thick enough if it came this thick, but it gives a little more weight, so when I do real light chopping, just delimbing, if I'm taking down a pine and I just want to clear off the little limbs, having that forward weight there helps a little bit compared to something like this. And wise of the grip, you know, they're both really comfortable. I almost like this one more. The reason being is with the Robust, you know, it's got the same size as the standard Mora Companion on the front. And I feel like I have big hands. I have extra large hands. And I feel like when I grab that front, I just wish it was a little bit deeper, or not deeper, I guess thicker here. And this basically is that, right? It's a little bit thicker. So I would actually say long-term usage, I would say the winner would still be the Schrade. So that's kind of a first real common comparison. I think some more fair comparisons, the first one being the Tops Bob. Great knife in a lot of ways. You know, comes with micarta handles, comes with a Kydex sheath, which I prefer generally. It is shorter. The cutting edge is significantly shorter. I think it's about let's see if I can get that in there. About 4.5 inches. A little half-inch does make a difference. I think the Schrade's actually a little bit lighter. I'm not sure why. Maybe because there's the tip on the Schrade tapers, as opposed to on the Tops Bob it does not. It stays full stock until that primary grind, that weird pseudo-scandy thing, which I don't mind because I usually do a little bit of convex anyway. Even this has a slight convex to it when I reprofiled it. But so out of these two knives, I don't love the handle on the Tops Bob. It's very boxy, and I get hot spots from it. It is wider here, which is nice, but it's really long handled, so I feel like it's kind of wasted space. I never utilize that space, no matter what grip I have it in. And yeah, that was kind of the main reasons that I wasn't a fan of this, for being a heavier knife. You know, if there's any other questions on that one, feel free to leave something in the comments. So I think that's maybe the fairest comparison with the Schrade. You can actually see, look at the difference in the handle length there. This is, I think, efficient, and that's probably the difference in weight, is all of this extra metal right here that seems unnecessary, and then this useless, like Shango notch, I don't, whatever it is, it's useless and can't throw a spark with it. I actually did put a 90 degree on this, a horrible 90 degree edge, but it can throw sparks, not well, and frankly I've been going back to just using a striker. I feel like I get a better shower sparks with that. Okay, and then the comparison for me that was most important, and that's because this is what I replaced with the Schrade, is the ESEE6. I like the ESEE6. I like the handle, even though it's boxy. I think because it is taller, it fills my hand better. You can see, obviously, I took the coating off of it, and that was just because it was getting beat and not worth keeping. I also 90 degreed the spine on it and reprofiled it. So in the defense of Schrade, who had a crappy edge, ESEE didn't have, it had the edge was well done, but it was at a really, again, steep angle, probably like 25 plus degrees, and I couldn't cut anything with it, and I hated it. So I reprofiled it, and it's probably about that 18 degree, as I would guess. And now it cuts really, really well. So I would say all of these cut very similarly for, like, you know, your typical feather sticking or anything like that. So the reason that I didn't love the ESEE6 is, like I mentioned, it's got a finger choil. So if I'm holding it in the correct grip, I've got like an inch of space before I meet that edge. So when I'm doing finer work, it's just not ideal. So I have to choke up, and then I've got a finger in a piece of metal. That just seems dumb to me, as opposed to my primary grip puts me right next to the edge. It just makes sense. It's heavier, obviously, but it is longer. So just to give you the comparison, let's see if we can line those up a little better. You know, there's about your comparison. So you get another 3/4 of an inch about of actual cutting edge on the ESEE6. I find I don't need that. It was a little too big of a knife, and because it's taller, it's just less maneuverable. When I was trying to do finer work, I felt like this was a knife meant for only batoning and small chopping, and when I tried to use it for smaller tasks, it just felt a little unwieldy. Notice again, though, the handle, more reasonable than this monster handle here. So a decent handle, but just too big of a knife for me. So I just wanted to give a comparison there between these four. I have other knives if anybody was curious to see other comparisons. Please ask me if you are curious, but I would say out of these four, still, I think the Schrade is my best all-around knife. I can do everything I can with the ESEE6. You know, it's maybe not as maneuverable as like a Mora, but I can still carve spoons, do everything I'd want to do while I'm just enjoying the outdoors. But also split wood, which I can't do a lot of with this. So if you have any questions, let me know.